Man, the title of this one is, Do Black People Like to Party in Ignorance While Rejecting the Truth of 4th of July? You know, man, the heathens have done a number on the minds of black people to where it only took a couple generations for us not to even research the truth, for us not to know our history, for us not to even care about the truth. And the reality is, man, you know, in 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was signed, you look at the word independence, to be independent from, to be separate, to be able to go your own way. Man, historically, man, that's something that my people weren't permitted to do at that time. Now, you would have had our women that could have gotten close to the festivities because they were preparing the food, you know, in the house for the festivities. You know, as this stuff went on for almost another 100 years, this enslavement. But the men weren't partaking in no 4th of July celebration because it wasn't celebrating our independence. We weren't factored into the independence, you know, that the Declaration is talking about. It's talking about the colonies' independence, but it wasn't talking about the enslaved independence. And I'd be a doggone fool. I want you to understand, man, what would, if you could put multiple generations here today of your family as a black person, go back 3, 4 generations, even 3, you know, and you had people that know good and well that this holiday wasn't for them. They weren't included in it. Wasn't nobody, these slave masters wasn't taking no hamburgers and hot dogs to these slave shacks for the slaves to cook. Go read your history. But you have somebody from 3 generations ago and have you present day, you as a black person, man, you got on 4th of July t-shirts, you popping fireworks, all of this, and your ancestors are sitting there looking at you like, what is going on? What is going on? And the Bible talks about Hellenistic Israelites that cut an agreement with the heathens, cut an agreement with the Gentiles. You can read about a similar incident in the book of Maccabees, where the Israelites were saying, man, we've had a lot of suffering. We might as well come to terms with these heathens. So they cut a doggone contract with the heathen and become Hellenistic. You know, man, it wasn't until 1865 that you got some form of independence, and it wasn't a whole lot of it at that. It wasn't a whole lot of it. You know, but I tell you, man, our people will go celebrate. We'll go celebrate everybody else's holidays. You know, we'll be out there celebrating Cinco de Mayo. We'll be out there celebrating winter solstice. We'll be celebrating everybody else's holidays, meanwhile rejecting the holy days of the Most High, including the Sabbath, including those biblical feast days being kept the way that we're instructed to keep them via the Bible. You know, I want you to understand, man, this message might seem offensive to some black people, but the reason you're offended is because you reject truth. That's the reason why. You know, we've got many of our people, many of our black leaders that are deceived. And I'm telling you, there is no hope for them. There is no help for them because it's in the mind. The strong delusion is in the mind. They receive not a love of the truth, therefore they get sent a strong delusion. But yeah, man, you'll go to a Sunday sun worship church that originates from heathen culture. You know, the day of the sun, Constantine, a heathen, instituted, you know, pretty much incorporated into modern day, you know, time. And a pastor will stand up there and say, happy 4th of July. Hope you guys had a good 4th of July. You know, knowing good and well that black people are deceived. Black people don't know their history. They don't know their heritage. I tell you, man, as a soldier, you know, back when I first joined the Army, I remember back then they would teach you the history because history is an important part of the Army, but not the fullness of the history. So they would give us a little class on the history of all these different holidays, 4th of July, especially military related, anything that had to do with us wanting to celebrate. And I remember asking, because I was looking at these pictures, looking at these slides, I said, man, how come I don't see any of our people? Our people were here. You know what I got told? Talk to us about that after this presentation. Did I get any answers? No. You got to search for the truth on your own. I want you to understand they're not going to give you the truth. You know, the reality is, man, this is a painful reminder of how independent you weren't, how enslaved you were. You know, now our women, like I said, man, black women, because they were serving in the house, you might have had a soft, effeminate type man working in the house around these women, but they would have got around the preparation of the food because the slaves were preparing the food for these slave handlers. So they might have got a taste of the festivities and sipping on a little drink and stuff like that, but that's not the reality of this. We weren't out there popping fireworks. We weren't out there grilling. They didn't come to the slave shacks and say, man, we're going to give you a day off. We're going to give you a day off. Barbecue, get you some of this good T-bone. No, that ain't the reality of it. 1865, almost 100 years later, 90 some years later, you know, enslaved and getting your freedom, and now you want to celebrate with the people. See, go back and look at your history of Thomas Jefferson. You know, Thomas Jefferson, man, he loved that Israelite woman. He loved her, but he didn't want to set her free. He wanted to keep her, you know, enslaved. They called it parentalism, to where he thought it was an act of saving her if he went up in there and enjoyed, you know, her sexual parts and still keeping those children that were his enslaved. That's the stuff they ain't gonna tell you. Channel 9, ABC News, all of them, man, that stuff is ran by heathens. They ain't gonna tell you the truth. And I encourage, you know, our people to just look at what you're doing. We'll run down the street and they could be throwing a block party for all kind of foolishness, and we'll run down the street and want to party in because they gave us a free hot dog, a free hamburger. And here's one thing. You got these heathens. This is an argument that they have. Well, when will you just get over it? Now, I'll tell you. Now, me, myself, I've never been physically enslaved. But I do understand the indoctrination, the programming, you know, of today that still keeps our people's mind enslaved. They're not physical shackles and chains anymore. You know, it's mental and spiritual. It's mental and spiritual. So I'm not so quick to, man, you know, run and celebrate something that really didn't include my people. Absolutely didn't include my people. Once I look at the research on it, and I tell you, man, there's so much truth in that Bible that we as black people or Israelites haven't been taught. You can be a black person watching this and saying, man, I'm not no Israelite, I'm black. Well, you just pretty much took the title that they created. You know, it wasn't a dark or melanated Semitic people that created the race theory. It wasn't. That's a concept that comes from them. But you will have many people say, well, y'all just need to get over it and forget about it. But guess what? Nobody says anything when the 2 nines still to this day are bringing up the truth of the pain and suffering that they experienced through the Holocaust. They don't forget. They know the truth. But yet when it comes to us bringing forth a reminder of, man, this day wasn't for us. You need to forget over it. You know, you ain't enslaved today. People celebrating the Holocaust today, and as a reminder of the pain they went through, they weren't burnt and beat and all of that, but they're still remembering what they people went through. Let's keep it real, you know. So I tell you, man, we won't be popping no fireworks. We won't be grilling none. Today is a regular work day, even though as a federal employee, it's a federal day off. You know, ain't nothing I can do to change that in the system, but I will tell you this, it's a regular work day, man. You hear them dogs barking and we getting after it, man. You know, this is, You know, this family business right here is the first, you know, major form of independence that my family has known. So I'm working to keep this going because, you know, a lot of black women don't even realize in the month of April, you know, how many black women got laid off. After all of that DEI that y'all thought helped y'all, you know, look at how many black women got laid off in the month of April because you were depending on them. I'm telling you, you better truly, you look out here, man, you better get independent from these heathens. You better get independent from these heathens because they will forever set you up for the okie doke. It's just the way it is. You know, man, the truth teller is always the one that people want to persecute, people want to shoot. You know, people, you think the way they did Messiah, he didn't do anything but come in the truth of the Most High. And what did these heathens want to do? Persecute him. Closer to Y'all Ministries, kicking it gun barrel straight.